Good day, family. God bless you wherever you are tuning in across the world. You are viewing, yes, another exciting show of Senior Talk with Clara Hubbard, also known as Senior Talk Media, on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, as well as Twitter. So thank you for all of our viewers today. Let me tell you, it's an exciting show. We are also known as the #1 resource and information show for people getting better with age, which are known as seniors. But we give them that long title because if you got another day, you're getting better with age. So today joining me are some smiling faces. Let me tell you, we are going to have a full impactful show. Joining us again, and by no means is anything a mistake, the cute and phenomenal, my good friend, Miss Joan Chambers. Let's give her a round of applause, everybody. Let me tell you, she is a busy lady. I tell you, and thank you, and good morning to Miss Phyllis Rogers for joining our broadcast, because we love you, we love you. Peer Plus Wellness is a great sponsor and friend of CISCRP Aware for All. Now, also joining us today is Nia Grant. Let me tell you, she is going to be our expert today because she's sharing her information about how she participated in a trial and how it affected her lifestyle, the new impactful things that are going on with her, and why it is extremely, extremely necessary. So because we do have new viewership and listenership, I would like Joan Chambers to take it away and just reintroduce to some and bring us up to date on Aware for All 2021. What is going on, Joan?
Oh, wow, Clara, thank you very much for that very exciting interview. And there's so much going on at CISCRP. CISCRP, we're the Center for Information and Study on Clinical Research Participation. And I'm very excited to be part of this show and share that our Aware for All Midwest event is going to be next Thursday, July 22nd. And we have Nia Grant with us today as a panel member who will be speaking next Thursday. But we do have other participants and healthcare professionals who will share their experience about clinical trials, what the process is, what you need to know, type of the questions you need to ask, in addition to having an informational exhibit center where attendees will be able to visit over 40 local health and wellness organizations within the Midwest region. Midwest, we're covering the states of, Chicago, Columbus, Detroit, Indianapolis, and Minneapolis. So we're very excited to have the program next Thursday. This is the third one that we're holding. We held a Northeast event in April. We held a Northwest event in May. And again, Midwest will be July 22nd. So Clara, can I answer any other questions, or we can turn it over to Nia?
Well, we want to turn it over to Nia, but what I want to do is I want to give her a good lead in. Let me tell you, CISCRP, you have the best communication tools virtually for your audience to really understand what you're doing. So we're not taking a commercial break. This is just a lead in for Nia to really expound on her experience. So everyone, just stay tuned. We have this beautiful, beautiful video. This is about the pharmacy. So if you have not seen it, you're going to be very, very much informed, and it's going to be a brain awakening and a light to your head. So check it out. Everyone stay tuned. Here's a message from MT Pharmacy. Stay tuned.
Are you open?
Yes, we are. Welcome to the MT Pharmacy. There's nothing on the shelves because we wanted to show what modern medicine would be like without clinical trials.
Hi, my name's Lester, and since I can remember, my mother she has diabetes, and she's been fighting it for years.
Clinical trials are medical research studies involving patients. They can help discover new medicines or get improved versions of existing medicines.
My brother was diagnosed with appendix cancer at the age of 46. The type of tumor that he has is called a signet ring cell carcinoma. I think there's only like a very small percentage of people in the United States that have survived from it. So that type of cancer, I would really love for there to be a cure for.
They help us find out if a treatment can work in patients. We'd like to fill these shelves a bit like how clinical trials fill the shelves in a regular pharmacy.
For Teddy.
I wrote on my box addiction. I wrote it for family and friends, and it's good to get the awareness out because a lot of people don't take addiction seriously.
I use 7 boxes because I put down pills for different reasons. I use HIV and AIDS because that's been out here for a long time.
I picked cancer for my box because my mother was a victim of cancer. She died of the year 2008. I was the age of 9 years old.
I never really thought about clinical trials. I guess I just thought it was for people who had cancer or something serious like that.
I didn't realize everything needed to be tested.
I think this is a good concept. I think it gets people talking.
This store is a great idea. I've actually never thought about the fact that without clinical trials, we wouldn't have any of the medicines that we take every single day.
Really? How extremely eye-opening and personable the stories were. So, Nia, tell us about your experience through clinical trials, and just give us the reality of where we sit right now.
Sure. So my name's Naya. And that's okay. I participated in a clinical trial that focused on diabetes, insulin pump. It was an insulin pump trial. And it was there was an existing pump, and they were looking to change the algorithm to make it better for the management of type 1 diabetes. And it's something that I'm really passionate about because living with diabetes on the regular is complicated enough. And any opportunity to come up with a product or to test a product that's going to make life easier, I'm all on board. So when I heard about the trial, I said, sure, I'm happy to participate because I don't want to live with diabetes anymore. And I realize this is not a cure, but anything that's going to make it better, I'll take.
One of the concerns that I have is that we as a community at large, in all ethnicities, let's be clear, we just presume there's an age that's a stigma, that goes with a certain factor. So you are a young woman, and there is also childhood diabetes, and so I don't want people to think, well, it's just for old people. I mean, just recently this week, I'm with my family, and I have a 14-year-old nephew who's just like, oh no, you're old. I'm like, I'm 50, but that's not old, But I'm saying they don't think about the other realms of life. So how did you know that you had diabetes? How long have you had it? And what has been your process of, through diabetes and retaining yourself to as normal quality of life, but then living with it successfully and you had to change diet habits. What has all that been like for you?
Oh, that's a long question. Okay, so my experience with diabetes, I was diagnosed when I was 21. The typical range that people are diagnosed with type 1 is anywhere from 3 days to well into adulthood. So first things first, type 1 diabetes affects all folks of all ages. Yes, you do tend to see it a lot more in children, because as they grow and develop and their hormone levels start to change, it's easy to detect, but that does not mean that adults cannot be diagnosed with it, type 1 and type 2. Type 1, which I have, is an autoimmune disease. So that means my body does not produce insulin. It is what it is. It's a fun factory setting. And for my type 2 friends, their bodies do produce insulin, but they're just not able to use it. And so, quick plug on diabetes, there's a lot of stigmatism in the community because a lot of people think that type 2 is sort of your fault, and it's not. It's your body is what it is, and it can or cannot use the hormones that it produces itself. So it's not anybody's fault when they get diabetes. It just sort of, it's a fact of life. So quick clarification on that. But so for me, I was 21. I was on spring break in Florida with my sister and some friends. And I had what everybody describes as all of the classic symptoms: irritability, running to the restroom every couple of minutes, being tired all the time, being always looking for water, dehydration. So as I was on vacation, and the longer we stayed, the worse I felt. And so I woke up one morning and I felt really, really terrible. So I called my mom and she said, wake up your sister and wake up your aunt, because we were staying with family members. And she said, she was a nurse. She'll know what to do. And so my aunt took one look at me and said, I really think you need to go to the hospital. So off we went. We went to the emergency room, and the doctor was very nice, and they ran some tests, and he said, how long have you been diabetic? And I'm like, I'm not diabetic. I was at Disney 2 days ago and had cream soup on a 90-degree day. That's generally, that sounds like food poisoning. And he goes, no, your blood sugar's in the 900s. It should not be that high. So we're going to admit you, and you are now a type 1. So that was fun. And so when I left the hospital, I was given a split mix of insulin. So they sent me home with 2 vials and a handful of syringes. And that was how I was supposed to dose my diabetes. And that for me didn't quite work because I'm an active person, and I'm a get up and go kind of girl. So having to remember to pack everything with me was a little challenging. And so that's when I started finding out about insulin pumps, which automatically dose your insulin on a predetermined schedule. And that worked a lot better for me. So that's what we did. We transitioned me to an insulin pump, and I've been on one ever since. And that's how we've been doing it. And so that's really what I like about, so that's been my experience, with diabetes.
Yes. So how would you speak to, the millennials, if you would, because even in regards to so many other factors in life, taking care of ourselves and health, we're just like, oh, I'm young, it's going to be okay. I'll get it. But how do you talk to someone now who has a schedule? We all are busy. Let's be very clear.
Yes.
So how do you talk to the millennials in your age group to say, hey, if you feel something, learn about your body? How do you talk to that group?
I tell people, your body better than anybody else on the planet ever will. Mm-hmm. You know what qualifies as normal. So, you wake up on Tuesday and my right leg hurts, and it happens every Tuesday. Okay, maybe whatever you're doing Monday night might be contributing to it, but your body better than anybody else. And if things don't feel right, or if things if it's something that's new and it's new for longer than, I would say, about 2 weeks, then you might want to go get it looked at, because 2 weeks is usually about when things either get better or they get a lot worse. So I encourage folks, again, what's normal for you. So if it doesn't feel right, then it probably isn't.
So Joan, we are in the third phase of 2021 Aware for All Midwest. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you, we have every season possible. There's even probably a fifth one. I don't know. COVID is a season in itself. We've gone through it. Though some of us are taking the necessary steps. We're still wearing our mask and things of like that nature. So tell us why this Midwest time is going to be very impactful. What can we anticipate on July 22nd? It is virtual. You go to Aware for All. Let me put that back out there. Please go to awareforall.org. Midwest, check in. There's going to be, for the first 250 or so, there's going to be a drawing for a Fitbit watch and all that stuff. But let's talk about what's going on right now and why the Midwest is so important, because, as I mentioned, top disparities in some of our cities: Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, Minnesota. A lot of stress is going on across the world. So how does CISCRP take this time to really be impactful during a hot summer season and get people's attention?
Right. So, I mean, the Midwest is going to be very impactful, as were the two other events, Northeast and Northwest. But and Naya will be able to speak to this as well. But we do have a really very engaging panel member discussion that's going to be happening on July 22nd, where Naya is going to be able to speak even more about her clinical trial participation, kind of the decisions behind that, but then also other panel members like Lynn Jordan that you'll be able to speak with tomorrow will really share her insights of why she wanted to participate in a COVID-19 trial and to essentially be part of the solution to a vaccine. And then we do have another panel member, Dorella, that will speak to about rare disease. So it's really the panel member brings a wealth of diversity from different perspectives of just different viewpoints, insights, but really sharing their perspectives about their experiences through clinical trials, through the participation, what you need to know, the questions that you need to ask, in addition to Naya, Lynn, and Dorella providing their perspectives from a patient perspective, but for even having healthcare professionals like Dr. Locke, who is a hematologist, and Dr. Jean, who is a rheumatologist. And then we also have a healthcare professional, Holly, who's a program manager at Northwestern University. So when you step back and look at the panel discussion, it's really about their experiences working with participants, participants sharing their personal experiences, but then really, and Naya can maybe speak to this a little bit about the importance of diversity in clinical trial participation, that, why it is so important, and kind of also talking about the challenges and how do we further inform the general public and the communities about what you need to know to be more informed about making an educated decision about clinical trials, and kind of rebuilding that trust within all these communities across the Midwest. I mean, Naya, I'm not sure if you want to chime in a little bit with some more information.
Absolutely. I check a lot of boxes in the DE&I space. I'm brown, I'm female, I'm queer, and representation matters. So if there are not people that look like me or who identify like me who are participating in trials, how can a doctor with reasonable certainty know how that drug's going to impact somebody? Because everybody's different. As I said, you know what feels different for you, know what's right and what's wrong in your own body. And it's the same thing with the general population. If you're only testing it on one demographic, then great, that demographic knows that it's going to work. But again, men can be 6 feet tall and 200 pounds, and women are 5'4" and 100 pounds. A drug is going to react differently because of height, weight, size, gender. And so in order to make sure that it is effective across the broadest swath of the population, you need people who look different or who identify differently. And so that, for me, is a big reason that I participate in clinical trials, because representation matters. And if I'm not represented, how are you absolutely sure that this is actually beneficial for me? So I know that it's beneficial because I've participated.
Absolutely. And let me say this, you are on target 100%, because period, in many things, as we talked in our virtual green room, African Americans and those persons of color are misrepresented in many disparity trials across this country.
Yes.
That's why I cheerlead for CISCRP, because you have covered every angle. So Joan, let me ask you this. In the planning, because it does take great planning, are you focused on a particular disparity through the Midwest presentations? I know our friend Great Lakes Clinical Trial, we love Steve Say, woo-hoo! We know he's going to present, but are there a particular demographic or typical specific demographics that you're covering per each of your regions this time around?
No, I think I would have to say, Clara, it's, when we look to our Midwest region, we want to be able to really inform and educate all diverse communities, and really, what does diverse really mean? It's, people of color, African American, the Black community, the Hispanic. We want to be able to also educate and inform the Asian community and some communities that are Caucasian that may be in underserved areas. So we really want to really spread the word and build the awareness about, clinical trials and what they're all about. If you think about it, when you never really heard the term about clinical trials before the pandemic. You'd sometimes talk with friends or colleagues, and you'd say, well, I work in the clinical trials or clinical research industry, and you'd have this deer in the headlight look. Mm-hmm. Well, now there's, because of the pandemic, fortunately or unfortunately, depending upon how you want to look at it, the clinical trials has become like a household term. And so now we're at this point that there's so much information about clinical trials that you're not quite sure what to really believe. Yeah. And so part of this program as well is really from as a nonprofit perspective, and as we build the Aware for All programs and have panel members like Naya, Lynn, Steve, Dorella, coming all together, it's really kind of having that personal voice that, you're hearing all this in different channels, but here's an opportunity to really hear from personal people who have participated in clinical trials and hear direct from them. This is what it's all about. And it's really kind of demystifying the concerns and maybe lending that, this is what clinical trials are really truly about. Yes. I've heard all about this, but now I'm actually hearing directly from Naya, from Dorella, from Lynn, from Steve, from, Dr. Locke. So it kind of really brings that personal component and voice to what clinical trials are all about. So to answer your question, when we look to have our Aware for All programs, we are really looking at all the communities, because we want to be able to share this information in a very friendly way. And that's not intimidating to any community member. That's Naya, do you have anything else to add to that?
Just that, we all know that the medical community and communities of color and varying other communities have not had the best relationship. And while you can't necessarily, the only way to fix it is when you have doctors and researchers and people who are willing to say, look, we know this happened, but let's make it better, because we want to, in 2021, be inclusive of everybody that's around. So we only make it better if we participate.
And one of the things that I really try to tell the community at large is that when you're participating, you're also pouring into the value of those who are behind you, or your loved ones. Your research is for a reason. It may not be for me, but if I'm someone that participates, I can give the results, maybe i.e. for my granddaughter or grandchildren, some people. But we want to also take the misconception of everyone goes back to the years when people were doing clinical trials for diseases years ago. The technology is different. Hello. Yeah. And also the education. What I ask people to always remember, anything that comes through Senior Talk Media, we are not selling you anything. We're educating and informing. And that's the key factor. CISCRP, Aware for All, education, informing. Also, too, when you go to awareforall.org, the trial will be on July 22nd. It's going to be there permanently. It's not going anywhere. So you can go back and retain the information. And if it's not for you, pass it on to your churches, your organizations, your pink hat, your red hat, all the clubs coming back, social groups. This information is for somebody. If one person get it, it's well worth it. So, Naya, let me ask you this. Being a young woman participating in a trial, what is that process like? What is the introduction to becoming a participant? Because now you can help some people say, you know what, I've heard quite a bit and maybe I want to consider.
Sure. There's a couple of ways to get involved in clinical trials. Your doctor's office might have some information, because some doctor's offices do. You can also go out on the NIH website. There is also a clinicaltrials.gov, I believe, is the website. So you find a researcher and you partner up with them. And one of the things that I most love about participating in clinical trials is I have all the control. I am the person that they're testing on. So I am valuable, and I mean more. I
like that.
Want my opinion. And also, as a trial participant, I think something that I always try to reiterate to people: you give consent to participate. And once you've given consent, that doesn't mean that, if you don't like something or something hurts, that means you have to continue. No, at any point in time, you can say, I don't want to participate anymore. I'm done with this.
Mm-hmm.
So that is also something that, keep in the back of your mind. You're in control. You have the right to say yes. You have the right to say no. You have the right to ask as many questions as you want. And which is useful, because people need to understand, what am I agreeing to? What is this going to look like?
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
And we just have a few more moments. Joan, we always get to this point every interview. Who are we looking for? Are the men stepping up? Where are they? Come on, men. Come on, men. We know women are always more apt to participate, but we need the men to show up, because we love you too. So break it down, Joan. Let's get the men to participate and get active and be a part of this Aware for All.
It's open to everyone. So I definitely, if you are a gentleman, man that's interested in learning about clinical trials, or you have a loved one or a family member, the Aware for All program is for everyone. Even the millennials that you mentioned earlier, Clara. It's virtual. You're able to register, and we send you a link. But if you really want to learn about clinical trials and kind of have those questions that are lingering in your mind that we can answer through the Aware for All event, this is an opportunity to really to join on July 22nd.
Absolutely. And so we also want to be mindful. We are going to be in several states at one time.
Yes.
So please check your time zones: Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, Minnesota, and Indiana.
Yes.
So please check your time zones. Everything is posted on Senior Talk Media. Also go to awareforall.org, get registered. As we mentioned, for the first, I don't know how many people, but they're raffling off, or there's going to be a Fitbit, which is totally needed, because it helps you with a lot of things that you can be attended to daily with your body. As you mentioned, Naya, hey, you want to monitor yourself during these extreme times of heat, weather, and lifestyles. Monitor what's going on. I have one somewhere around here. I use it for my blood pressure. I use it for my oxygen level. So many other great things that it's for. So each of you ladies have 1 minute to close us out. What is your closing remark with us? And thank you so much, Naya, for your real true transparency of what the process is like. So how you feeling these days? Because you look good. How you feeling these days?
I'm doing great. I'm excited that vaccines are now available, and that we can sort of return to the leave the house lifestyle. And my parting words of wisdom would be: representation matters. You represent a specific dynamic of whatever community you're a part of. So if you want to be representative, even if it's just for yourself, because it might be that it's beneficial to somebody else later. So representation matters.
And of course, the one and only Joan Chambers, what is your closing remark?
I would say this is an opportunity to really learn about clinical trials, and not just for yourself, but it's an opportunity to learn and participate to help future generations, and to also stay safe. And it's nice that we all have vaccines, and some communities are starting to open up, which is nice to potentially have in-person events. So stay well and stay cool, because it is in the summer months. And thank you, Clara, for this opportunity.
Absolutely.
See you again, Naya.
Oh, wow. So this has been great. Let me say thank you, everyone, to joining us today. I do want everyone to please be mindful. The event is on July 22nd. Check your time zones because it is about an hour and a half to 2 hour presentation. You don't want to miss it. There is something for everyone. Please go to awareforall.org, get registered. Also, you can go to Senior Talk Media. And we want to also be mindful, if you're watching this and maybe this presentation is not in your community, you can nominate your city.
Yes.
And there's plenty of ways to get it done. So if you have any questions, a lot of church ministries, all that good stuff, please remember to go to my website, seniortalkmedia.com, and we will be glad to forward that information to you. So as we say, thank you to our host, Nia Grant, as well as Joan Chambers. I've been your host, Clara Hubbard. And please remember, in complete darkness, we are all the same. It is only our knowledge and wisdom that separate us. Don't let your eyes deceive you. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.